What chance did a woman have in a naval courtroom where every law was written by men who believed her very existence at sea was unnatural? What mercy awaited a woman accused of piracy when even the waves that carried her across the world were used as a weapon against her? History tells us the answer: almost none. The so-called golden age of piracy was not golden for everyone, and for the women who dared to rebel, who fought, sailed, stole, and survived, the empire had punishments designed to erase them completely. Some were hanged, some were flogged, some were enslaved, some simply disappeared into the darkness of prison ships, never seen again. Tonight, we uncover the brutal truth behind the forgotten punishments of female pirates, punishments so severe they were designed not just to kill, but to silence. The golden age of piracy, roughly 1652 to 1730, has become a world of legends. Captains with names like Blackbeard, ships with nicknames like Queen Anne's Revenge, but hidden beneath the stories of men are the stories of women who fought alongside them, challenged them, and in some cases led them. And Bonny, Mary Read, Mary Critchett, and dozens more whose names appear only briefly in fading records or court transcripts. Their crimes were the same as the men's, but their punishments were far worse. The British Empire feared piracy, yes, but it feared female pirates on an entirely different level, because a woman with power at sea defied every expectation society held. And so, the Admiralty Courts crafted a system meant not just to punish them, but to destroy them. This is their story, tried by a system that never believed them, guilty before they ever spoke. To understand the fate of female pirates, we must first understand the courts that judged them. Admiralty Courts, naval tribunals held in places like Jamaica, Antigua, or New Providence. Courts without juries, courts where the verdict was almost always decided in advance. Piracy was the empire's greatest fear, a threat to trade, a threat to order, a threat to the crown. And female pirates, they threatened something deeper, the rigid, immovable order of gender. Even the law said so. Legal scholars of the 17th century argued that women could not be pirates because piracy required violence, command, and leadership traits they believed women lacked. So when a woman appeared in chains before the Admiralty Court, her very presence was treated as a violation of nature. Most female pirates were tried under the Piracy Act of 1698, which made the punishment unequivocal. All persons convicted shall suffer pains of death. No exceptions, no leniency, no second chances unless they could claim one thing: pregnancy. And Bonny and Mary Read 1720. In 1720, and Bonny and Mary Read stood trial in Spanish Town, Jamaica. Their trial lasted only a few hours. There was no defense attorney, no appeals, only the testimony of ship captains and frightened sailors, bribed or bullied by colonial authorities. Both women were sentenced to hang. When the verdict was announced, and Bonny turned to Calico Jack, her lover, her captain, and delivered the line that survived centuries: "If you had fought like a man, you would not have been hanged like a dog." But even that defiance didn't save her. What saved her was biology. Both women pled the belly, announcing they were pregnant. Under English common law, an unborn child could not be executed for the crimes of the mother. Their execution was delayed. Mary Read died in prison before giving birth, and Bonny vanishes from the record completely. But the truth is clear. They survived not because the court showed mercy, but because the court respected a fetus more than the woman carrying it. Most female pirates never had even that small chance. Execution dock, where the empire made examples, hanged with the tide that once carried them. If a female pirate was condemned in London, she was taken to one place: execution dock, the most feared execution site in maritime history. The path to death began at Newgate Prison. The condemned were loaded onto carts, paraded through London under armed guard. Crowds jeered and threw rotten vegetables. But the real horror began at the river's edge. Unlike land executions, these hangings were carried out by the Admiralty itself. The method was slow, cruel, designed to humiliate. A short drop, barely a few inches, not enough to break the neck. Instead, strangulation. A long, agonizing death the crowd called the Marshal's Dance because the body would twitch, kick, and convulse in the air, sometimes for 5 minutes, sometimes for 20. The worst offenders were then gibbeted left hanging until 3 tides washed over them. The Empire wanted pirates to die with the sea. Mary Critchett 1729. Mary Critchett was one of the few documented female pirates executed by the British, captured in 1729 with a group of escaped convicts turned pirates. She was tried swiftly in Williamsburg. Her sentence, death by hanging. No delay, no pleading of the belly, no last-minute reprieve. She was executed quietly, overshadowed by the executions of her male crewmates. Her story became a footnote, not because she was less of a pirate, but because history felt she was less important. Female pirate executions were rare, but when they happened, they were brutal, public, and theatrical. They were designed to send a message: a woman who defies the empire will die for it. The whip, public flogging as a tool of fear, pain, spectacle, and gendered punishment. Before the rope, before the gallows, before the tide, there was the whip. Flogging was one of the most feared punishments in the maritime world. The cat-o' and nine-tails was a weapon built for destruction, 9 knotted cords, each capable of tearing flesh with every strike. For women, flogging carried a darker purpose. It wasn't just physical punishment, it was humiliation, spectacle, reminder. Crowds gathered to watch. Children, sailors, housewives, merchants, everyone could attend, and everyone was meant to learn. Women who had fought like men were publicly reduced to bodies made to suffer. While Bonny and Mary Read may not have been flogged before trial, many female pirates captured in the American colonies or the West Indies were whipped repeatedly, either to force confessions or as part of their sentencing. Imagine salt air stinging open wounds, blood pooling on cobblestones, the crowd shouting, authorities standing tall, proud of the lesson they were teaching. For women accused of piracy, flogging wasn't about justice, it was about dominance. Not hanged, not freed. The women sold into slavery, punishment without record. Not every female pirate made it to trial. Not every woman aboard a pirate ship was even recognized as a pirate. Many were disappeared. In Spanish and Portuguese colonies, captured women, especially African or indigenous women, were treated as spoils of war. Some were concubines, some were house servants, some were plantation laborers. Very few lived long enough to be recorded by history. If a woman of color was found on a pirate ship, colonial officials often assumed she was enslaved, even if she had fought alongside the crew. This means one thing: countless female pirates may have existed, but their names will never be known, their stories never preserved, their fates never documented. Silence became their punishment, and erasure became their legacy. The prison ships, slow death in rotting darkness, the floating graves of the British Empire. If execution was theatrical and flogging was public, then prison ships were the opposite: quiet, dark, forgotten. As land prisons filled, the British Navy began using decommissioned warships as floating jails, anchored off Jamaica, off Portsmouth, off Plymouth. Below deck, conditions were worse than any dungeon. No light, no fresh air, disease thriving in the damp, rotting wood. Men died by the dozens. Women suffered doubly: violence, exploitation, starvation, illness. And because female prisoners were rare, their deaths were rarely recorded. Some may have been awaiting trial, some awaiting execution, some simply awaiting someone to remember they existed. But the record shows nothing. History didn't forget them. History erased them. Why were they erased? The punishments of female pirates were brutal, but the cruelty of history may be worse, because for every Bonny or Mary Read, there were dozens, maybe hundreds of women whose stories disappeared completely, erased by the courts, erased by the empire, erased by the sea itself. And that raises a question: who decides which rebellions are remembered and which are buried forever? The ancient historian Tacitus once wrote, "The more corrupt the state, the more numerous the laws. If that's true, then the British Empire, drowning in laws against piracy, was terrified. Terrified of rebellion, terrified of disorder, terrified of the women who refused to obey. The women who dared to break the rules were punished not just for piracy, but for possibility. Their absence in our history books is not an accident. It is a warning, and perhaps a challenge.